Going live. Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave. And today I'm joined by this nerd.
And Nerdarchy Ted, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
I am doing well. I caught you napping.
Napping, making my character sheet for tomorrow. Either one.
Same difference. Well, it's not as bad as showing up and then making a character then. You just do it on stream. I mean, we could have totally just made a thing of it. I mean, it's not really on topic, but
Sure. I mean, we're planning to play a nice cipher system, Halloween-esque kind of game tomorrow instead of our usual Those Bastards. And we're going to be playing some cipher system. I really doubt there's going to be any farming involved, but I mean, it's possible.
Well, I think the game takes place in rural Indiana, so there might be some farms going on.
Indeed.
Um, you know, but I'm not positive it's rural, but I think it is because I think that's kind of where Steven grew up, and I think he's using that for the background of the backdrop of the game. And so tonight's topic is D&D ideas farming. And before we get any further, real quick, there's some links in the description you guys should check out. First of all, the sponsor of this video, Easy Roller Dice. This is your first set of dice or your 1 millionth set of dice. Easy Roller Dice for all your dice rolling needs. There is a coupon code for you can only get to use it once, but when you do, it's 25% off. So it's a good one, so you can check that out. Yours truly and Nerdarchy Ted here will be in the castle over in the UK next year, July 8th through 12th, and we still have seats available at our tables. Some of them have already sold, so you might want to hop on that if that's a thing you're thinking about doing. And
it's a wonderful experience, a lot of fun, a nice whirlwind vacation that's totally filled with castles and D and gaming and awesome people.
With that, let's jump into it tonight. Farming, man, what do you think?
All right, so I threw this topic out there, and you know me, I like to have a little bit of play on words, and especially when we start talking about gaming, farming totally relates to those early tier one adventures where you've got to go save the farmer's cow or sheep or whatever have you. But whenever we talk about gaming and farming, that also can be into, well, I'm farming for better gear or more gold or what have you. And while it could play more to the video gaming side of gaming, I think it's still kind of a little apropos to the tabletop as well.
Well, yeah, like I've in my notes here, I wrote down, I wrote down farming, for that reason, video games, just like you, but also, the thing is, I remember, back playing 1E and 2E, that where you would get your XP at the end of the session, and inevitably there's a player that is like, man, I need like 2 XP or 3 XP or 1 XP. Can I go kill a rabbit? Can I go kill a cat? Right? So I feel like also I saw a tweet today that really made me think about this too earlier today, and it was like, I don't like systems that have XP because it makes me think about video games, and it's kind of video gamey. And it just kind of made me laugh. I guess it's just because I'm old. But like, where do you think the video games got the XP systems from?
Yep, yep, yeah, and it is amusing, and those people who have played enough games to see those moments of like, man, I am this close, and as much as we enjoy the role playing and the connectivity and all of these other things, it's still a game. We still enjoy, oh man, the level up, the more abilities. Like I love that crap. And like I got a note from one of the DMs that are like, oh, level up your character for the next session. Well, the next for a couple of weeks.
You got that note from a week ago, like that
Ah,
night the note came out.
6 days ago. I'm bad at Discord. I apologize.
We are very bad at Discord. Like, thank you and shout out to our Discord and the moderators over there because they run a tight ship and they stay on top of things. because we don't, because we suck at Discord.
But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah,
But look at that. I'm like, all right, I get to update this character and look at what I get for ninth level. And like, oh, that's a fifth level spell. Man, there's not a whole lot of great fifth level sorcerer spells for my character. I'm like, well,
mm,
this could be cool in this kind of game or that kind of game, or man, these are a lot of concentrations. But
yeah.
still get to make those choices, and it's
Does Sorcerer get Steel Wind Strike?
I don't think so.
Oh, is that a wizard only?
It could be.
Man, I feel like with Tasha's, that came out with Tasha's, so I feel like maybe not. But I could be wrong. I only
But
looked at
like
it
I
from the
said,
wizard standpoint.
right.
So let's see. I saw the chat that I want to respond to. Stephen Whitehead, XP makes players compete with each other instead of cooperate. I really think it depends on the type of game you run, and how you distribute XP. Right, like in most of the games I've ever played in, it has always been whoever is involved in the encounter gets XP. So, unless people are trying to go off on their own and do stuff in that sense, or like if you're a GM who gives out role playing XP and they're trying to like ham it up for that. I played in a Star Wars game where the GM gave trivia XP, which was terrible. Um, they're like that definitely bred that, and it also was very like the antithesis of immersion
Hmm.
when everyone is just like trying to show off how much Star Wars trivia they know instead of like actually playing the game and getting a character.
Sure.
Uh,
And
uh,
I saw the other side of it because I am such a Star Wars nerd that like I knew a lot of that crap. So it was like, oh well, I can be an XP whore and steal all this stuff and what have you. And but I definitely understand the side of it that is all right, you know,
yeah,
looking for immersion and actually playing the game when you're actually playing the game. So
yeah. So I guess that's a long way of saying like video game farming actually came from D&D in my opinion. And it was from that player who's like, I just need one more XP. Can I murder a commoner? So, or if you played back in the day when like it was you got XP for your gold, then it's like, can I just steal a couple more gold pieces from this noble? He doesn't need it. I need it.
yeah, it's rough, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped or we've stopped doing the let's track XP is it's it's more work on everybody. And I know that back in the day we would reward XP, and if you missed a session, you missed XP, and that wound
Yeah.
up creating a sliding scale of, well, the people who are here more often, not only do they have better treasure, better gear, they're higher level, which makes it harder for everybody else to compete, which makes it easier for the level difference to mean even more, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Whereas it,
Well, yeah, no, but like, I mean, I guess you can catch up pretty quick because you need a lot more XP at the higher levels.
sure,
So it does start to balance out, but you'll still be a little bit behind. Or the other thing was like if you died, you had to start over at level 1 with a new character, and which it creates this like death loop, right? So your characters would just keep dying because they were too weak to be with the rest of the party. But if you could just survive a couple encounters, you would like skyrocket through the levels.
I mean, we did have the one session where we had 9 players at the table. 6 of them were characters that are players where their character recently had died or they were just joining the campaign, and the DM was nice enough to let them start at level 3, and the first encounter drops a crap ton of walls on them, killing them instantly, and the 3 are left to deal with it while everybody else sits and twiddles their thumbs. It was like, oh god.
Ah, yes, the good old days. And if you can't tell, that is New Jersey sarcasm.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so
Grognards that would have complained about gaming today compared to gaming then can just go fuck themselves. That was bullshit. Like, or
So
even showing up to a new game in third edition when like you get a new player and you're like, oh, well, it's going to take me some time to get you in. And also, go make your character. Here's a stack of books that you can hide behind, and then like it's going to take them an hour to make their character, and then maybe the GM will fit them in at some point, and then like it's like, okay, I've been here for like 3 hours and I haven't done anything.
Parks has got a great comment here. Is if you give XP by the number, the inevitable question of how much XP is so and so's character worth?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's been said at our table a number of times.
Yeah. A few times for sure.
So the situation of it's more hassle than it's worth. Like it's a big
It
enough
eliminates XP farming too. Like
right.
it's no longer no longer matters.
It's so much worth it, or it's hard enough missing out on story rewards and any magic items that might be divided to lose out on XP as well. It's like, all right, I can understand, like, if you've got a serious issue with scheduling, trying to be an adult and this and that, or God forbid if you're old enough that you've got kids and one of your kids got sick or is in the hospital or what have you,
Or is being born.
or being born. That's happened as well.
No, it's good. I still made it the game. It's fine.
You still made.
Listen, it's hard to get a full group together of adults all at the same place, same time. I mean, you can pump out kids, every 9 months or so.
So it's one of those things that it's just much easier on everybody to just be like, nope, I'm not gonna bother wasting my time trying to calculate, who gets XP here, there, and whatever have you. You wanna role play at the table? Great. I'm not gonna do the little tick marks and hash marks, that we used to do back in the day. You want to sit there and be quiet and just enjoy the game. You're not going to get penalized for not role playing. And we've got players that, have certainly done that they're not comfortable or they're not comfortable getting into the character as much as everybody else and doing a voice and doing a this and doing a that. But if they're having fun and they're engaged, I don't care. Like, be the introvert off to the side and engage to whatever, as much or as little as you so desire.
Well, one of the things that annoys me about 5e is that of all the backgrounds we've gotten, we've never got a farmer background.
Yeah, that is one of the things that, like, I don't know whether I did it for a blog post or whether I've done it in like an idea in my head and never published it.
Yeah,
I've
thought it, therefore it is.
Farmer is definitely one of those that, like, I feel is necessary to the game and doesn't exist. The closest thing we have to Farmer is Folk Hero, and I think that's what it's supposed to be. But it's like, what if I don't want to what if I don't want to be a hero? What if I don't want some heroic deed? I am a nobody farmer.
Yeah.
Eventually, picked up a weapon or learned magic or made a pact. Like, there's so many different.
Like, I ran away, right? I didn't stop them. I didn't stand up to them. I ran away as my farmer. My farm home and family burned to
death. But so, like, all right, well, maybe that's the haunted one, or but like, you can extrapolate to have come from farmer, but farmer is such a staple. It's such a large part of the game.
Almost any other profession can fit into guild artisan,
but not farmer.
But not farmer. Farmer doesn't work. Like, I mean, you could even be like gravedigger and make that work for guild artisan, right? But farmers don't tend to have guilds per se, right? Co-ops maybe, but guilds no.
Right.
It's not quite the same, and it just feels like such a staple of the world, and the trope for the moisture farmer or milk farmer or whatever he was goes off and fights the empire, right? Like, it's a classic. So why is there no farmer?
All right, so that's what I'll do. I'll find where I wrote up farmer and put it in to my D&D ideas newsletter portion for next weekend or this weekend, wherever it comes out. I'll find it. I'll make it happen because it needs to be out there.
It needs to be out there. So, we were thinking about this topic. I was like, out of the box encounter actually has a bunch of farm encounters, right?
Yep.
Yeah, down on the farm is literally like a farmer's having a problem, basically because a monster has set up a farm next door. Essentially, I don't give spoilers, and which leads into some annex. Counting sheep is another one where you literally actually have a farmhouse, and there's something happening there that has to be dealt with. Passenger is something that has to do with pastures and sheep, right? And then
Yep.
there's one crow, two crow, three crow, scarecrow, which is also a field, off of a road. I actually connected three of these together, or was it two of them? I connected two or three of these together and ran like a one shot when we did that corporate event.
Mhm.
Um, and it worked really good. And like you could probably stack them all together to make a big. There's one big problem that's happening, on a farm someplace.
Absolutely. You could have, just the one farmer who's got all these problems or like is perpetually, having something going on. And you could even kind of come up with something else as to like, is there something about his house or cottage or land choice or something else in the area that is drawing in, these monsters and these problems? And that could be like your fourth thing to figure out or fifth thing, depending upon how many of these you want to link together. And then eventually, like, all right, you've finally broken this guy's curse by finding this item or dealing with his other adversary, and removing it. Whatever it's an item or a thing or a person, doing that could be like your final piece of this adventure. And
Yeah, you're gonna have to
I
do
feel
some
better.
work to find them. But Ted actually read a bunch of articles, and it's like these like encounter ideas, and they all happen on the same farm. And I've only been able to like find a couple of them, and I only remember them because I remember Doug talking about them and talking about like this poor farmer has got the worst luck ever because all these crazy things are always happening on his farm.
Yeah, I only vaguely remember that I wrote these things because I'm pretty sure it was a while ago. And let's face it, we've been writing on the website for closing in on a decade, so it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, we've been at it for a while. I mean, the website's got. I mean, I think the website and the YouTube channel are each closing in on 4,000 pieces of content. So there's that.
We've been pretty prolific.
So the other thing that I was thinking about is like, what a monsters farm, right? Like you could have some fun with that. Like I kind of feel like if you have vampires, or you could have a nobility of vampires in whether it's a countryside or a hamlet or even a town or a city that they preside over. They kind of see all of the residents as their cattle, right? And they might even be protective of it, right? They don't want to have to find new ones, so they keep these ones alive. They don't drain them dry.
Right. I mean, when you look at the variety of different unique cultures of D&D, um, you can have things in the Underdark where they're cultivating mushrooms or cultivating spiders to be able to make silk. You can have things like the mind flayers, the illithids, who literally keep people to do a variety of tasks. Um, you know, so like they're in essence its own combination of farm slash indentured servant slash slave, however you want to refer to that.
I'm pretty sure they're just slaves and thralls that they eat sometimes
So
as,
like
as the need arises.
so you could go in a variety of different directions. Um, when you start getting into the Feywild, you could have even crazier things because Feywild doesn't always, follow the same sets of rules of what have you. So like, you know, cultivate all kinds of things to grow or farm.
Yeah. Hey, Johnny Guillotine, you should check out the online scene. There's plenty of games you can play. Is it the same as playing in person? No. But it is better than nothing, and in my experience, it's been really great in the sense that I get to play with people I wouldn't normally be able to play with because they live hours away at the closest.
At the closest. Yeah, there's the online scene has definitely done well for us. There's a lot of great friends that we've made over the years. People that we game with regularly or not so regularly. It's
So Park says, how about special farms that grow raise spell components?
Could definitely do that in a more magic rich environment. If you're near a city that houses a like a spellcasting school, like that kind of stuff would certainly be a necessity. Now the current edition has done away with the need of the spell component pouch, and you can just grab a focus and be like, all right, I don't need any of that crap. But
Well,
perhaps
even the pouch is ambiguous. It's like stuff.
right. But I
It
mean,
never runs out. You never need to get a new one. It's really not any different
right,
than the focus. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like you can hang the pouch off your belt and you don't have to hold it.
right.
And I think the focuses are slightly cheaper.
I mean, they're all between like 5 to 10 to 15 gold, I believe.
Yeah, but the component pouch is 25.
Oh,
But that's the price of having your hands free.
whatever. I mean,
Listen,
uh,
man, as a character that played a caster that wanted to wield a weapon and a shield, this is a big deal. You need to know you need to know where those extra hands are coming in. That's why being like a Thry-Kreen is probably like ideal for being a Gish.
yeah, yeah. And for the DMs that are going to be sticklers about it, sure. But when push comes to shove, how many GMs are like, all right, what is your use of interact with an object and this and that? Like, I haven't cared. Like, it's not that big a deal to me. Like, yeah, I'm sure that there are people out there who want to crack the whip and be like, all right, well, you can't make an attack this round because you used your interact object to get the item out of the thing to cast a spell. And that's your one hand. Your other hand is holding the shield. So how are you using your axe?
In my teeth, of course. Um, Dak, I need to start playing online as well. Haven't got around to it yet. Got my webcam recently though. Monitor and HD are on last legs and working those issues now. So here's the thing, right? Like you could do like we're doing now in a Zoom call and be off, or you could do virtual tabletops. But there's plenty of people that just play via Skype or Discord, and they don't even use video; they just use audio. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it, and a lot of different groups are playing differently. So it could be kind of as low tech or as advanced as you want to. Like you can be like virtual tabletop plus Sirenscape, you know, um, or like our games, all of our stream games are just theater of the mind. We don't get crazy with it. Steven likes to get a little crazy and he likes to use some Sirenscape, but the rest of us are kind of just pretty low tech. So you can find groups that will match your tech level and competency. So it's not nearly as much of an obstacle as you think it is. I think the hardest thing with gaming online is like if you've never done it before, is just starting to do it. Right, is breaking inertia, and once you get in there, it can be cool. And like I know people. Not only do they just find communities and join those and find groups that way, or they just reconnect with people from their past, and they're like, "Hey, we can do this thing now from with us being all split up." So it's just all really cool.
And it's a way to stay connected with those people that you kind of lost connection with.
Yeah, it's a really long way of saying just do it. Just jump on Discord. That seems to be probably the easiest way, and there's tons of communities you can just plug into. You even have people doing play by post. Now, I don't find that very satisfying personally, but some people seem to really like it.
All right. So what else can we farm? What else can what else can we link into these, D&D ideas?
So, like you said, it's kind of a fast fantasy world, and also Parks kind of brought up, growing, strange things like, you could have fields of crystals that maybe they don't grow naturally, but they're being harvested or coaxed into growing. You could definitely, have a lot of fun with more fantastical things, and also 5e just leans into more fantastical anyway. So that becomes really easy. Um, the idea of, what does, like, some of the monster farms look like could be fun, right? Like, they talk about hags milking Catoblepas for their milk and making death cheese from it, right? And I believe that was even one of the adventures from Ingest Quest, the first
Yep.
campaign, where they have to milk the
They had
Catoblepas?
to, they had to actually milk the Catoblepas.
Yeah. So, so you could even, what if there was a whole farm like that?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I thought of like, all right, you had a farm that had a Catoblepas on it or multiple to the milk to make the death cheese. Like, what other things could you have? I mean, to me, the second you start talking about odd things on a farm, my first reaction is, okay, well, your standard chicken is going to be your cockatrice. So
Right.
Catoblepas is your cow, and your chickens are your cockatrices. What's going to be your pig? What's going to be your horse?
You also have the Bizzle chickens, which you actually used in one of your articles. Um, which, like, you took it from the standpoint, what if someone or something was turning the chickens into abyssal chickens? But
Yeah.
yeah, like, I actually did that with the campaign that I ran for our nephew and my son, and my wife and one of my son's friends. Like, one of the first adventures was, these goblins were like sneaking onto the farm and dusting these chickens with, like, with this magic powder that would freeze them. Well, it didn't. No, it did freeze them, but it made them like living free frozen chickens, which basically they were just cockatrices. But instead of turning to stone, you would turn to ice.
Mm.
And they did that because they wanted the ice cockatrices eggs, and they would use those, and they would consume those.
Mm.
So yeah, so I feel like, if you start looking through, there's probably tons of monsters that you could kind of do that kind of stuff with. You know, what about on that farm of belay, and what they keep the belay for is when they shed their plates, and then they use the plates to make things from,
They've taken the idea from our dwarves of Crathan Gulch to make more shark steel.
to make shark steel. Yeah. So yeah, which is, a mythical medical metal we created back, I don't know, like 20 years ago, where dwarves would kill and harvest belay plates to turn them in. But part of that was taken from the fact that in either first or second edition, I think, like, in part of the lore was you could make shields from the plates or something, and they could be enchanted to be magic. So we kind of took it a step further and said, well, what if they took the plates, instead of enchanting them directly, we're able to smelt them and with another metal, and create like new ores from it.
Right. And that's to me is one of those things that I always enjoy, that aspect. And I've always been, pretty psyched about our shark steel, and I, in fact, one of the players at my round of D&D in a castle last month, he was a dwarf from Crathan Gulch, and you know he took pride in his shark steel shield that he carried around.
Nice. It does 5e does make it a little bit harder to do something cool with with exotic materials because there's not like a lot of bonuses in the game.
Right.
So mechanically it's hard to make it mean anything.
So it's like, all right, well, does it weigh more? Does it offer some, static benefit? Uh, so like you've got to be careful because, like you said, pluses in any way, shape, or form need to be, balanced.
It's rare. I think it's easier with weapons than it is with like say armor.
Mhm.
Right? Because if you have an exotic material and you turn it into armor, and you're like, well, this is increases the armor class. Well, that's exactly the same as a magic version.
Right.
But if you do it with weapons, it's not exactly the same because it doesn't overcome resistances,
Mhm.
or immunities. So I feel like it's fine. It's still not quite as good as being magic, but it still can be better than just like a mundane weapon or item. So what do you think? Another thing like with farms, like if you were to come across like giants, right, and the creatures that are on their farm.
See, Giants is one of those things that always gets me because whether you talk about giants as they were portrayed in the D&D cartoon that are like 100 feet tall or more, or whether you're talking about how they are now, anywhere from like 10 to 11 at your ogre height to like 25 feet tall for like your storm giants. Like I feel like I don't understand how they fit in the world.
Yeah.
There's they're taller than some trees that humans are like, all right, I can't see the giant because they're too freaking tall. I don't. I've always had a hard time grasping them, and that's why I don't use anything beyond like ogres or hill giants. Without any kind of like serious planning of, well, where are they and how are they isolated and why are they removed? Like, yeah, maybe eons ago, ages ago, when the world was new and you had lots of them running around, sure, and they had their own civilization. But when you start looking at how they would operate now, like I just don't see it. I have a hard time breaking it down. So to see a giant trying to live in a location and have a farm, I'm like, all right, unless you've got plants that grow to human size, eh, like what kind of fruit gets that big that the giant's gonna be like, all right, yeah, that's good.
Well, why not? Like maybe they figured out how to grow giant fruit and use all giant sized animals.
It's entirely possible, probable. Um, I just look at it and I'm like, I don't know, man.
The economy of scale. Well, I think it kind of works, but to them we're rodents,
Yeah.
right? Like I like that argument to me is kind of like, well, it's like mice looking up at humans, right? They'd be like, well, how can there be so many of them? This doesn't make sense. But that's also why like there's so many more of them, right, than there are of us, in essence, right? As you kind of scale down, like me,
Mhm.
there was a story in the news, and I think it's like a billion crabs just went missing. They're just
Yes.
gone, right?
Yep.
And and Steph's kind of like, a billion. How could that? How can there be so many? And I'm like, well, they're smaller. They're you know, but like that's the way I see it. Like, a dozen giants would be like the equivalent of like 100 humans, right, or something living there. So I think they'd have smaller family units because they require more space, more range. and that's why like even just some of the monster ecologies in general are hard to fathom because of that. Because of that, right? Like, if a manicore's range is 100 miles for its territory and hunting, how does that play into the ecosystem, right? And then there's more creatures like that.
True, but when I look at the size of the giants, you can look at, well, where do they live? Unless you're talking about they live inside of mountains, which storm giants typically don't. Um,
They build giant ass castles, man. They live in big houses.
and where are those things? They would be obviously seen by anybody else. Like if you look at a mouse is going to live in you know wherever it can fit and hide, and
Mhm.
it's obvious. Like, okay, well, where we sit things, where it scurries around, heck, like I live near a golf course, and every winter, any mice that are over there get chased by the cold and find their way into my basement. Uh, and to them, this is just this massive area that's a little bit safer than where the cats and birds exist outside. But from a human perspective, it's not like our cities are being built on a portion of the storm giant's massive castle. Like they would see that there's another civilization there.
Well, and that's why generally in most D&D settings, there was an age of giants that ended, right? And because they
Mhm.
did live the way we did, and then something happened because you're right, they wouldn't be able to coincide because they would just build their big ass stuff, and then humans would spring up with a city and be like, I don't like that, and then just start chucking rocks until there was nothing left, right? So yeah, and that's why. But like, it's not that it's either they're in a spot where it's isolated enough that they don't have to deal with it, civilization, or they've compelled civilization to stay away.
Right.
And if you're a storm giant or a cloud giant, that's not that. I mean, even the other part of me, even the other giants, that's not that hard. They have a lot of considerable power to bring to bear. Um, a battalion of fire giants or frost giants would wreck an army.
Yes.
So, but yeah,
So
so I think it's the idea of scarcity in the sense that like there's not as many around, but you could totally do a continent or someplace that is undiscovered where either they are there or they used to be there, and it would just be a vast city where you're like you need a grappling hook and rope to climb the stairs because each step is like as tall as you are,
right. So
unless you're a halfling, and then it's like as tall as you and your whole family standing on each other's shoulders.
so this is, I guess, more of a farming of ideas at the moment. But it's finally, I guess, dusted the dirt off of the gears of giants, and has got some ideas kind of working, and rethinking some typical things that maybe haven't been done. So that's maybe there's another blog post in my head off of this, or maybe there's going to be a new section of our world, because
Yeah.
our
Or
world is
it's just
over.
like Christian says, they all live up in the clouds, and we just can't see them. Which would be kind of cool, like vast cities on clouds of giant societies, and like occasionally, like, oh, it's raining. Nope, that's just a giant taking a piss.
I like the idea of flying castles. There's definitely some fun angle, and if there's a cloud giant, well, then perhaps the concept of cloud giant is, you know, derivative of what was bestowed upon them ages ago. And when we see clouds, from down here, well, they just look like clouds, but sure enough, there could be a mobile city up there. And as we kind of like see more and more fantastical and beyond elements added into D&D, I don't see why you couldn't have flying castles inhabited by giants, up in the sky.
So also, let's see. There's a question. Oh, John. Anyone got a good place to find games? There's a bunch of sites that you can find games. Um, that like I know Start Playing is one of them. There's another one like Game 4 or something. Demiplane. All of the VTTs have looking for group sections. You might find the looking for group section on D&D Beyond. And there's probably you can try Meetup. There is a ton. I think if you start googling around, you'll probably even find articles. We probably have articles on our website about different places to find games, and then also you'll find other articles as well that'll list them. It was funny, like someone was on TikTok, like someone should start like a dating app, but for finding games. And I'm like, well, I feel like there's already several that already do that. It's just finding one of them to plug into.
And if you look at whatever your favorite social media is, like I know there's going to be, groups or things along those lines. Like I know we have an LFG in our own Discord that occasionally gets some traffic and what have you of people looking for players or people looking for games. If you're looking for some one shots and that kind of stuff, I know that there are definitely things out there for that as well. So if you just unfortunately got to do your legwork, you got to do the farming to find what it is that you're looking for, for that kind of aspect.
Yeah, but there's definitely like I said, there's definitely they're definitely out there. And most of the sites also now, a lot of the sites now also have free games that you can just join. Some of them have GMs that are paid GMs that you can sign up for. I believe both Start Playing and Demiplane both have those features. I feel like a lot of them are doing that now as well. So it gives you options.
So anything else that we feel that we need to kind of get on the agenda?
I don't know if do you have any business? I know you had printed stuff out. I think you printed stuff out.
No,
or was it just your character sheet?
I was printing out my blank character sheet to that prepped in some downtime because sadly life right now is very short and pressing when it comes to time. There's so much on. I just this past weekend, I'm like, man, that weekend flew by, and at the same time, it felt like it was miles long because I had so much going on. It was rather ridiculous. Um, you know, we are going to be back tomorrow night. We're not closing up now, so don't run away. We'll be back tomorrow night for a Cypher System game. We're taking a break from those bastards. It's possibly a 2-week break.
It is a 2-week break because we're this week we're kind of doing our Halloween game, and then next week we're going to be doing a Vast Grim game. We wanted to help out a friend of ours who is running a online convention called Wormfest, and it's super cool, right? So like, or weird depending on how you look at it. But basically the way it works is you have a virtual avatar and you enter the spaceship, and the spaceship has different rooms, and there's like a room for vendors, there's a room for just pickup games, there's games that are going to be run that you can get in on, there's going to be a room that's art shows, there's a room that's a panel. We're going to be hanging out at Wormfest as well. But so the game in 2 weeks is basically to kind of show you guys Vast Grim. I don't think we've played it on the channel. As of yet, we do have a video about Vast Grim, which it's a cool OSR style game that's a Morkborg hack, but it's sci-fi horror. So it's a lot of fun.
And then on top of that, we will not be here to do our typical live chat next week. It's going to
That's
be
going to be trick or treating.
it's going to be Halloween, and this may or may not be the last year I get to go do the whole trick or treat thing with the kids. So
You don't need them, Ted. You can still trick or treat, man.
so I'm taking the night off, and I don't think Dave wants to sit here and chat without me. So
I couldn't just sit here and talk to all you guys for an hour by myself. I listen. They're talking head YouTubers that do it all the time, and they're like Luke from DM's Lair. I'll look and be like, 4 hours. What the hell did he have to say for 4 hours? A guy from How to Be a Great GM, Guy Scandalers is the same way as well. I'm like, guys, what do you guys talk about for all that time? I'm be like, I don't know, guys. I'm out of stuff. I have nothing to say.
so it's one of those things of you know, I'm gonna do the Halloween thing, and I apologize that I'm not gonna be here for y'all, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and then we'll be back to normal. Uh, Dak. Yay, Cypher System. I fell in love with the system the first time I saw it used on Nerdarchy playing their sci-fi fantasy Shadowrun like game. I think it was a while ago. Yeah, we literally played Shadowrun, but we all agreed we didn't want to actually play the Shadowrun system. So we used Cypher System and kind of the GM hacked it up and
that
made it work.
was that was a weird game because like I felt that the DM wound up like, all right, you're gonna make your character of everything that you would do if you were making a normal Cypher System game. But then he looked at what you could get out of Shadowrun and added extra powers and things.
Yeah.
It was definitely a ramped up game. We played a whole campaign out of it. So there was definitely a lot of power level grabs, from that aspect as well.
He did I mean, Scott did a great job with it, but it was far more complex than I would have did if I was hacking Cypher System to do it.
You would have just said, "We're playing Cypher System. Make your character make sense."
Yeah, theme it. But he took it like a couple steps beyond that, which was fine. I mean,
Sure.
it worked out. I think we all had fun.
Indeed, I loved my character, and it's amusing now that it's come a little full circle because my character was essentially like a cyber hacker, cyber mage, uh, street orc who used his drumsticks to do his hacking. Um, and like he would just sit there and look like, oh, I'm leaning up against the wall as I'm pretending to play drums when in essence, I'm actually hacking into things. But my character's name was Sticks because he had drumsticks.
Yeah,
Now, now we've got a character in your game and Under the Dome where we've got a Loxodon whose name is Sticks because he beats things, with clubs.
With clubs. Yeah. So I played a character who was kind of inspired by Gizmo from no, Teen Titans.
Oh, okay.
Teen Titans is one of the villains, right? And it's funny because I was playing a human, but I played a little person.
Okay.
And he was basically his main thing was drones. He's a techie and used drones.
Hmm.
And then my son played my son, and he played like some kind of spell casting troll, essentially.
Okay.
But because of the way the goblinization works in Shadowrun, you can start off as a person, and boom, now you're not. You're something else. I believe I'm not like a Shadowrun expert.
Yeah, I believe you're right. It's been a while since I've looked at those books.
But yeah, so if you like watching us play Cypher System, then you can come back tomorrow night at 8:30, and we'll be playing it. We'll actually be playing it live. Although this game is going to be more like a kids on bikes, Stranger Things, Goonie style game. So we'll see. My character I'm playing, I have to still put him on paper, but I basically know what he is. For anyone who knows what's new Cypher System, I'm playing a craven explorer who commands beasts named Sticky Pete, and his beast companion is Gandalf the Grey, which is this big old gray Great Dane.
I'm going to be playing a hardy warrior who needs no weapons. who's his name is Matthew Henderson, or Matt. Um, but he's a like we're kind of like doing this set in like the 80s 90s era, so he's a bit of a metalhead and a jock, so somehow that works. Obviously he's had some kind of training in martial arts from back in the day, whether he practices or not, who knows. um, but I guess I'm going to be our heavy, and we'll see if I get to survive or not against whatever it is that I decide to punch and kick at.
We shall see. I don't know. My character is going to be really good at running away. So also, I'm playing a stoner. So guys, should I eat edibles before I start the game?
I would say no.
It's totally legal here in New Jersey, by the way. It's cool. It's all good. No, I wouldn't do that because I also have to run production.
So whenever you take a drink of water, Dave, the chroma key makes it look like it's a potion of invisibility.
Maybe it is a potion of invisibility.
So Dak is saying, as far as farming goes, my mind goes to a sort of downtime activities for landowners and or maybe merchant trading stuff if your group travels around, has some kind of vehicle. You could definitely do like the merchant wagon kind of route, as far as farming is concerned.
Well, so we've had that come up in our game before, not necessarily with farming,
Mhm.
but I mean, like that's also like a really good way to start an adventure too, right? Like if you're a bunch of farm hands and you want to start like low level, which doesn't work great in 5e, but we'll do a little hand wavy stuff here, and like they have to take the wagon of potatoes over to the next town, right? That could totally be the start of the adventures, and maybe their potatoes get hijacked along the way, and then your first adventure is getting back the potatoes.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. I
Oh,
mean,
is it a what is it? Do boggles make the tiny portals, or they just do oil slicks?
I don't know. I haven't looked at Boggle in a while.
Yeah, but there's definitely a Fae that makes like little portals, so you could have them like stealing your potatoes as you're like on your way, like one at a time. So yeah, I feel like you could have some fun with that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the first level adventures, I mean, are practically limitless, and when so many things do happen at, near, or with a farm, it's pretty easy to work with.
Well, it depends too, like what kind of game you want to play, right? Like if you want to go the other way and be like, this is a super magical world, and you're growing super magical stuff, well, I feel like the problems you're gonna have as a farmer changes, right?
Sure.
Like the pests you have to deal with now are gonna be, I don't know, like if you're growing magical things and normally you have to worry about critters coming along and eat your stuff. Well, what kind of stuff is gonna come along and try and eat your magical stuff? Or if that's a thing that they normally eat, how has that affected them? How has it changed them? Like, if you've got, mage lettuce growing and bunnies have been eating it, now maybe like that's how you get what are the unicorn bunnies?
The
Amir, Ajir, or something. I don't know. I can't pronounce it anyway.
Alamirage.
Alamirage, yeah. You get those, or all of a sudden the rabbits are teleporting around and eating the lettuce. You go to grab one, it teleports over to another patch and
Did you just did
numbing
you
away.
just make did you just make blink bunnies?
I may have just made blink bunnies, right? And that's just like something off the top of my head. You could have other things like, what about a magical disease that affects things on the farm? How do you find a solution to that? How do you fix that? Um, giant gophers are going to be a bitch,
Yeah.
which I feel like we could just use the giant badger stats,
Sure. But it's a gopher instead.
but it's a gopher instead.
So I'm also sitting here thinking, so much about the your hag farm, and I want to make that location.
Uh,
I don't know where we do it, how we do it. Um,
So we know we got to have catablepuses on there, and either
Gotta
cockatrices or abyssal chickens or
or
both for
both.
sure.
I'm cool with both. Them being separated for whatever reasons. Maybe there's some kind of issue, and we make up what happens if you try to crossbreed a abyssal chicken and a cockatrice that makes something horrific. Um,
That would be kind of funny.
but like,
Is that a gorgon? Why do you have a gorgon on your farm? You can't even get anything from gorgons.
I mean, heck, maybe there are gorgons there, maybe there are basilisks there. Like, perhaps for whatever reason, this hag has got control over these creatures. Maybe they fear her. Abyssal cockatrices.
So, right, like the D&D gorgon is it's a physical creature. I think it's a monstrosity.
Mhm.
And it's basically a bull with metal scales, super big, and has a petrifying breath weapon. But
Yep.
to me, like, it's always kind of portrayed as a male, right? So, like, what are the female gorgons like? Like, what with like, and I mean, basically they're kind of like bulls. So, would the females be like cows, like metal scaled cows that maybe you can milk as well? And the babies would be metal scaled veal. I don't know, armored veal.
Armored veal. They're called dude.
I
veal. Veal is the meat of the animal. A baby cow is a calf.
I know, but the baby gorgon is born armored, so it's armored veal.
But it would be an armored calf, not an armored veal.
It depends on how you look at it.
Oh my god.
So I don't know. I mean, just a thought.
Parks' a comment of, Gorgon leather armor could act like half plate.
Yeah, I need more information on gorgons now.
Sure.
It's always been one of my favorite monsters. Like so, I like I like them because I think I've done it in the past where I've made basically a gorgon slash minotaur.
Okay.
Just like my displacer kin.
Right.
And I don't know, they're just things I like. They're just two things I like to combine with humanoid.
Yeah, I haven't done much with Displacer Kin though. Displacer Beast is my go-to, with Belay and Mimic being my second and third in whatever order they
Yeah,
are.
yeah. So displacer kin is, and I think I did stat them and use them in previous editions. So displacer kin are essentially they are humanoid panthers, uh, with tentacles that grow out of their shoulder blades. So basically, humanoid displacer beasts, except for they don't have nearly as many limbs as a displacer beast.
Right.
Um, yeah, they're a monstrosity. The Gorgon. I feel like I used a huge one against you guys or a gargantuan one because I think you guys like ran between its legs.
It's entirely possible.
Oh, it was the goat. It was the goat trial. It might
Yeah.
even be online.
It should still be online. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that was that was the one that I unfortunately failed and didn't get goat powers.
You did not get the goat powers, but so I got distracted by Dak. I'm talking about a Gorgon plot line. I'm intrigued. It is one of the classic D&D monsters that I have an affinity for. Although I feel like I say that when we talk about any of the classic D&D monsters, I just love them.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things when we've been gaming as long as we have, we've had some kind of experience with. So, like, there's pleasant and unpleasant memories. It's like,
yeah. Well, even the unpleasant memories are kind of like fun, though.
Oh yeah. It's unpleasant as in, like, you didn't survive, or the players beat the crap out of it far quicker than you thought was going to happen.
More often than not. Quick reminder, the sponsors for this video is Easy Roller Dice. There's a promo code down in the description. Also, they have a Kickstarter going on. It's a link down there. You can check that out as well. And also, 2023 July 8th through 12th, me and Ted will be running games at D&D in a Castle. Our tables are already starting to fill, so if it's a thing you're interested in, you should check that out sooner rather than later.
And if you've already used that promo code down there to get your 25% off, and you're eyeing up those cat's eye dice that they have, you can use cat25 and get those dice for the next 2 days for 25% off as well.
Oh, see, I didn't even know about that.
I sign up for a whole lot of newsletters and whatever have you. So that was in their thing today. So I figured I'd share that out because it's a situation where those dice are gorgeous, and you can get them at a steal.
For sure. With that, it's that time, but we'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 for our Halloween game. Come check us out. And until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.